plane, killing all 150 on board. Stay with us for these and other stories at the top of the hour. Welcome back at 6:27. Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago. Thank you for joining us this morning. We have coming via Skype, attorney at law Martin George. Actually, he's on the phone. Good morning, Martin George. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Yes, hi. Good morning to you, Paul, and good morning, Trinidad and Tobago.
So much to get through this morning. Let's start with two of the news headlines we just read. First of all, you are, I believe, the attorney dealing with the baby situation in Tobago. There, according to reports, may have been a preliminary report, and you're asking that the report be delivered in 24 hours or you'll take the authority to court. Let's get some background in that case, please.
Yes, Paul. The mother and baby both died on October 31st last year, and since then we have been acting on behalf of the bereaved husband and the father, and we've been seeking answers from the TRHA. Now, the unfortunate scenario is that the TRHA, the Tobago Regional Health Authority, is different from every other regional health authority in Trinidad and Tobago because the TRHA is not under the direct control and supervision of the Minister of Health. The TRHA has been excised out of the group of the rest of the other RHAs and has some line authority put over it by the THA, the Tobago House of Assembly. So what we are saying is that when one looks at it, if you go back to 2007 to the Gladys Gafful Commission of Inquiry into the health sector in Trinidad and Tobago, one of the specific things that was said by that commission in its report is that the TRHA refused to cooperate or participate properly in that commission of inquiry into the health sector. They did not answer questions, they did not respond to inquiries, they did not provide documentation. So this has been operating as a rogue RHA for years, the Tobago Regional Health Authority. And we are saying that, look, it is time to revisit this entire scenario and maybe revoke that part of the legislation which gives it this sort of independence and autonomy and bring it back fully under the control of the Minister of Health. Because there have been several situations in Tobago with health issues where we've written to the Minister of Health and basically he says, listen, everything has to go through the THA. And I think the THA, certainly under its present leadership, has shown itself totally and utterly incapable of managing the health sector in Tobago.
Good morning, Mr. George. How are you?
Hi, good morning, Nicola. How are you?
I'm good. Is it that the preliminary report has not been made public and we're awaiting the final report, or is it that we've not seen the preliminary report at all and you're giving them 24 hours to come up with some sort of report?
Well, actually the information we've received is that the final report is available and is being suppressed and is not being made public for whatever reasons the authorities at the TRHA have. And we are saying that if it is that it's the Secretary for Health who commissioned this report, then the report at any rate, even whether it's a preliminary report, ought not to go back into the hands of the TRHA before being made available to the public. So in other words, if you are investigating the TRHA, why would you send your report to the TRHA first and they have it for weeks and they're not making it public and then they produce something afterwards and say, well, okay, this is the document we're sending out to the public. That could not be right. So we are calling for the actual original report from those persons. We have the greatest of respect for Dr. Albert Prasad and his team. And what we are saying to the nation is that we are calling upon Dr. Albert Prasad, who headed that inquiry, to ensure that the integrity of his investigation and the integrity of his team's work is not compromised by any other entity who may wish to sanitize or clean up that report before releasing it to the public.
Now, Martin George, there seems to be some concern from where I sit because this happened in October of last year. This is almost 6 months ago.
That's correct.
I'm
And they
surprised
cannot give answers.
it's taking less long for a report to be delivered. What have they told the bereaved husband and father about why this is taking so long? Because I'm presuming he has the right to know why his wife and son died.
Well, Paul, all we are getting from the authorities in Tobago, particularly the Secretary for Health and the officials of the THA, are excuses and obfuscation. No one is coming out directly and giving us answers. You recall we even had to fight to get an independent pathologist to attend upon the post-mortem examination to ensure the integrity of that process. So we had to fly in a pathologist from Trinidad and have him there. And that report by itself, just the pathologist, the forensic examination report, is damning in itself because it says that there was an incision made to the mother's neck and she bled to death from that. Now imagine you are going to deliver a baby and the report shows that there's an incision made in your neck and that you bleed to death and you suffer from hypovolemic shock, resulting in your death as a result of that. Who can explain that? What were you doing up by the mother's neck making an incision? So, I mean, there's so many things to be explained here, and I think that's the reason why the authorities do not wish to release this report, because it may contain so many damning indictments against their management of the health sector in Tobago. That's the reason also, Paul, why we are still asking the Prime Minister, and we are calling upon her, because we know she loves Tobago and cares about Tobagonians. The health sector is in dire need of its own commission of inquiry to look at the Tobago health sector specifically.
We're moving on. Two more topics to cover. First of all, let's start with the police action on Monday, which brought the country to a virtual halt. And the fact that since then an investigation has been launched, the report due in two weeks. Minister of National Security, retired Brigadier Carl Alfonso, indicating it will not happen again. Authority has been taken away, if I understand it correctly, from inspectors and now given to divisional heads alone. You're a member of the Police Service Commission. How concerned are you about what happened on Monday?
Well, Paul, I don't even need to speak as a member of the Police Service Commission. Just as a member of the public, I am particularly disturbed by the actions which took place on Monday, and as a member of the public, I'm even more disturbed by the tardiness of the executive of the police service to deal with this situation. In other words, since Friday something occurred, you must have known that this is something unusual if you, as the top and the head of the police service, did not sanction it. Why wasn't something done since Friday? In other words, why wasn't there some public statement by the acting commissioner since Friday to say, well, hey, listen, I have observed this and this appears unusual. I did not authorize it. Our top executives did not authorize it. We are looking into it. We are going to deal with it. Then that may have forestalled and prevented Monday's action from taking place, ab initio. So therefore, I think that that's where the failure lies first and foremost. I think there was a failure to act. There was a crisis of inaction at the head of the police service, and that's what resulted in Monday's action taking place. Had it been dealt with decisively on Friday, we may not have faced that scenario on Monday. So I think we must look first to the root cause of the problem, because I actually commend the Minister of National Security for trying to take some step on Monday to bring this to a halt, because had he not done so, nothing may have occurred. I mean, there's a question of whether he does have the legal authority to give a directive, so to speak, to the police service, and that's a very valid question in law. But certainly I applaud him for at least trying to be proactive, because the very head of the police service at the time was not doing what ought to have been done. There was no taking charge and no leadership shown there, and that is disturbing to me as an ordinary citizen.
Mr. George, obviously we see the general public that there has been some fallout, of course, in terms of the communication lines between the executive and inspectors, superintendents, etc. But what fallout do you think, or what ramifications can be expected, given the fact that the authority now has been removed from these inspectors, giving the authority for roadblocks? It's been quoted that they are the ones, the inspectors are the ones on the ground. They receive the information. They are the ones at the time that can say, okay, we need to have a roadblock, or otherwise. Most of the times the divisional heads are not available at the time and they need to act immediately. Do you see any fallout taking place given the fact that this authority is going to be taken away or has been taken away?
Well, I think the fallout has already started, because I saw on the news last night, Inspector Ramisa, did make some intimations as to whether that was, the best approach. And of course, again, I think I agree with Inspector Ramisa in the sense that it appears to be a knee-jerk reaction by the executive of the police service, because if this is a system you've had in place for years, then there must be some reasonable basis why you've had that system. And to simply say, well, okay, look, I'm removing it, is it a temporary removal? Is it a permanent removal? It really appears to be you putting a plaster on a growing cancer. So therefore, you need to look at the root causes of the scenario, and you also need to look at your own inaction as the head of the service in terms of why you didn't deal with it previously, in terms of, giving your instructions since Friday.
But Martin, isn't there something more concerning about this? If you have to revoke authority of an inspector or inspectors, there's the implication that there may be a feeling that they may have been complicit in this operation?
Well, I don't know what was the basis upon which the acting commissioner took that decision, or the executive of the police service took that decision. But obviously, the logical assumption would be that you fear that they did not exercise their authority in a way that was satisfactory to you, so therefore you have removed it from them. But as I said, again, I'm not sure that's the best approach. In other words, why do you need to deal with it? To simply say that you're removing that power from them, is it a permanent removal? And what's your long-term logic and justification for that?
Sounds very dysfunctional to me. Finally, the press conference held yesterday by former AGs, plural, Ramesh Lawrence Maharaj and John Jeremy, calling for a probe into the spending or the expenditure under former AG Ananam Logan. As an attorney yourself, how much of an indictment is this, or is this just another investigation, or more politics?
No, well, the point is, Paul, at the end of the day, once we are dealing with the public's money, then there must be proper accountability and justification for the expenditure. So I'm not sure that we necessarily at this stage need a probe, but maybe if it is that there could be the explanations given to say, well, okay, look, on this matter, this is what was involved, this was the level of complexity, because we have rules which govern attorney fees and how you charge and how you bill for matters. And we have the rules which have been set out by the Supreme Court of Judicature in terms of the guidelines, whereby they set out bands for attorneys. You have bands A, B, C, D, and E, right, with the highest being the level of senior counsel, where the suggested billing rate is $3,500 per hour. And then it comes down in lower grades to the lowest level of the most junior attorney, which is $650 per hour. So once you can have that correlation in terms of, okay, this was the matter, this is the number of man hours spent by instructing attorney, this is the number of man hours spent by counsel, and you have that justification, then of course no one can, question it beyond that. If, however, there appears to be vast disparity between the level of complexity, the amount of work required, the number of hours spent, the billing rates for counsel, then of course, then people would have a basis to say, well, hey, listen, we now have something that needs an investigation. So I'm not sure an investigation is needed yet. I think maybe a more detailed explanation and breakdown may suffice at this point.
All right, Martin George, thank you very much. We're going to have to leave it there for now. Thank you for your input and your contribution this morning.
Thank you so much, Martin George.
You're welcome.
We're going to take a short break. When we come back, Minister of National Security, retired Brigadier Carl Alfonso, will be on set with us. Stay with us.